Lately, I've been trying to capture emotions in my paintings. But what if I tried to make an artwork that captured sound? This idea came to me when I saw Kristen Voscourt's paintings, where she uses thin tape to create an extra element in her artwork that conveys meaning. Of course, I couldn't resist buying the same tape and giving this technique a try, except with my own twist to it. When I saw this reference photo on Pinterest, I had an idea. What if I used this tape and taped it in the shape of actual music notes, making it look as though the girl is actually playing them? Surprisingly, this whole tape situation took me about an hour to make. I mocked up my ideas in Photoshop, found the notes that I was going to try to replicate, and began taping. Something I keep reminding myself lately is that the best art takes time. It's about allowing yourself to work through each step, even if it means that it's going to take longer than you expected. Sometimes we feel this pressure to create quickly, especially with social media constantly showing time-lapse videos of people finishing paintings in seconds. It can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you're a better artist or not, depending on how fast your artworks come together for you. I'm currently painting in my new art studio, which I actually painted myself with my mom. Now, I've got to be honest, like this painting, the process of making this studio feel complete has been a slow one. I've been meaning to fill in the back wall of my art studio with my artwork for a while now, but I kept putting it off to paint or draw instead. Recently though, I decided that enough is enough. Therefore, I'm going to paint this watercolor portrait and hang it right on the wall with some of my other previous artworks, finally bringing some color and life to this space. I painted in the first layer of this piece, and I think it's starting to look a bit messy, so I'm kind of feeling lost and discouraged on how to approach, the next steps. Therefore, I think I'm going to take a bit of a break and do some other things. Usually, before I start my paintings, I wait around for the perfect concept, the perfect reference photo, and a clear vision of what I want my art to generally look like, or what vibe I want it to give off. However, before starting this painting, I was feeling pretty stuck on what to paint. And when I came up with the idea of taking inspiration from Kristen Voscourt's paintings and using the tape, I asked myself, is this idea enough to create a painting? I think the answer is yes. Just make the art. A lot of times we want to create something, but stall by overplanning. What if instead of obsessing over every detail and visualizing exactly what we wanted, we simply dove in and figured it out as we went? For this painting, I started by painting in the background first, which I felt was the easiest part to tackle. I'm currently painting on Yupo paper, which is a paper with a waxy finish that doesn't absorb water as much. Yupo paper can be used for both acrylics and watercolors. What I like about Yupo paper is that because it doesn't absorb water much, it makes it much harder to blend. While this can be challenging to work with, especially when painting the face, I find that it pushes me to be more loose with my strokes and explore and work with the unexpected in my painting process. This watercolor painting is 13 by 10 inches. An important tip that I have recently discovered is before starting your painting, check to make sure the size of your paper is standard enough to have a wide variety of picture frames available for sale. Only now that I'm starting to buy frames for my previous artworks do I realize that size really does matter, especially if you want to hang your artwork up on the wall in an affordable frame. At this point in the painting process, I'm painting in the darkest areas of my piece even darker. I think one of the biggest tips in making your artwork look 10 times better is simply contrast. Don't be afraid to go too dark when painting in your shadows. Most of the time, I see artwork suffering from not enough shading, which I call underexposing. So don't be afraid to go bold. I know it can feel very scary at the moment to paint darker, but just try it. You yourself will see the great improvement in your painting practically instantly. There's this painting tip that I came up with that I've been using for all my latest paintings. It's simple yet really helps you see exactly where you need to go darker in your painting. What I do is take a photo of my unfinished painting, put it in grayscale, and compare it side by side with my reference photo, which is also in grayscale. Sometimes when working in color, I find it difficult to determine whether one color is actually a darker value than another color, or if it just appears so because they are different colors. Using this technique gives you a more objective perspective of your painting and makes it clear to you what areas of your piece need to be shaded in even more. This face took me 2 tries to get right. The challenge was that in my reference photo, the face is in shadow, which makes it harder to see the values as everything is more subtle. I came up with another idea to help me solve this problem. In Photoshop, I used the curves feature to make the photo lighter. This helped me see where the darkest areas were in the face. Something I love about creating art is the problem-solving aspect of it. Throughout your art process, you're constantly facing problems to solve, whether it's figuring out how to get the colors right or how to make a certain part of your piece look the way you intended. As you work through these challenges, you're developing your problem-solving skills. By working through the ups and downs of the creative process, you're developing a mindset that's adaptable and resourceful. And when your artwork finally works out, it feels so fulfilling. Something I've been thinking about lately is how your creativity is like a muscle. There are countless times where I didn't feel like painting and instead went for a walk or did something else completely unrelated to art, and my creativity suddenly returned. Like any athlete would tell you, there's this very delicate balance between using yourself to your potential and overworking your body. It's very important not to cross that line, because if you do, you can completely destroy all your progress and your body in the process. It's important to take breaks and let your body heal. I think the same applies to your creativity. Taking time off to reset and recharge is not only important, it is necessary in ensuring your creative health and to preserve that creativity for the long run. This is something I really try to keep in mind and remember, especially lately since I've been kind of going through this phase, which I think all of us artists can relate to, where we fall into the mindset of thinking that if only we tried harder or were more organized or had better supplies, then we'd be a better artist. Or if only we locked in and tried harder earlier, we would be so much farther in our art journeys today. I think to some extent this is true and that it's important to push yourself sometimes. However, it's also not true. At this point in the painting process, I am going in with a pen and loosely scribbling in the areas of my painting where the paint didn't stick and left white spots. This is one of the downsides of using Yupo paper. However, I found that going in with a pen first and then adding another layer of watercolor on the white spots actually somehow makes the paint stick even more. Obviously, it's not perfect, but personally, I like the additional interest the pen scribbles add to my painting. I know a lot of times we can feel as though we aren't enough and aren't trying enough in our art. However, imagine the flip side of this situation. We forget to give ourselves credit on how much we do, how much simply showing up after all this time really matters. There's this quote I like: "We tend to overestimate what we can do in a week, but underestimate what we can get done in a month." There are ups and downs in our creative journeys and in life in general. However, I think you never truly lose unless you stop trying. It's like with stocks, right? You don't technically lose any money unless you actually sell your stock at a lower price point than where you bought it at. What does it mean to be an artist? In the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, the definition of the word artist is a person who creates art, such as painting, sculpture, music, or writing, using conscious skill and creative imagination. Notice how there is no mention of how good the art has to be, how often it should be made, or how long it should take. Based on this definition, you truly are an artist. So go paint. If anything in this video was helpful and speaks to you, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.